shut up, you listen to my monkey mouth. There's a companion when you got pun on the Kanoa route. Hopped in a portal and got in a fight, Elias knocked him out. Bow, Naruto fighting style. Bow, UFC he tapped out. Bow, we win, we get crowned. Monkey mouth, monkey mouth, monkey mouth, monkey mouth.
What is up, Armchair Army? Thank you guys for joining me again on another iteration of Armchair Mixed Martial Arts. On this episode, we're going to cover UFC 278, as well as some of the fights that happened between UFC 277 and 278. There are a few fight cards, and we're also going to look forward to the fights between UFC 278 and 279, as well as a quick look at UFC 279. And so, to start, I want to go over 278. The fight card, the big fight card that just happened over the weekend. Tremendous night of fights. And let's just talk about the thing that everyone's going to want to hear about. The head kick heard round the world. Leon Rocky Edwards shocked everybody. I mean, that's the only way to put it, is that he shocked everybody. I had him picked to lose. The world had him picked to lose. He had maybe won one round, and they were in the fifth round, and Kamaru was still, like, winning, man. And, I mean, like, Joe and DC and the guys in the broadcast booth were, like, writing his obituary for him. Like, they were like, this is over. And I saw a video, I think it was from Henry Cejudo's little YouTube channel, where they showed his live reaction. Yeah, they showed his live reaction to what happened, and in that video, you could hear Leon's corner yelling, "Rocky, you gotta go." And they said something to the effect of, the head kick, it's there. And like, as they said, it's there, bro, he lands the head kick and shocks everybody. I mean, and it wasn't even like the typical response to a big knockout where like everybody goes completely ape shit. It was like actual shock. Like, it literally shocked everybody in the stands. It shocked the broadcast. It shocked the whole world. Leon Rocky Edwards shocked the world, and that's the bottom line to this. He's the champion right now. He's the hero of the day. And more power to him, man. He had a really tough go in his last few years with COVID and with big fights being yoinked out from underneath him. And, I think he had like 6 fights get canceled over the last 3 years while he was trying to keep his paychecks up. And he deserves it, man. He's been in the game for a long time. He took the fight against Diaz in between then and there, and he shook up the world, guys, is the only way to put it. I'm so happy for him. I saw him like talking to his mom after the fight and crying, and it's just like a literally beautiful thing. It's a beautiful occurrence, and it appears as though Kamaru Usman has taken the loss pretty effectively on the chin. I saw he went to social media and said, even champions fuck up from time to time, and I'm going to come back stronger effectively. I don't know if that's an exact quote, but like it was something to that effect. I fucked up. I'm going to get in the gym and work real hard. And that's champion mentality. Like Kamaru Usman, you can't take anything away from Kamaru Usman, man. Leon just hit him with the perfect head kick. And it was something that Joe had been talking about leading up to it, how just technically perfect Leon is whenever he's throwing his strikes. And so whenever your technique is that good, it typically doesn't... You're performing the actions in the most efficient way possible. And so in the 5th round, he still had the capacity to throw a clean-looking head kick that delivered lots of power. And this is the first time we've ever seen anything like that happen to Marty Usman. I think Gilbert Burns hit him pretty hard and like made his legs go like wobbly for a little bit, but we ain't ever seen Kamaru Usman get lawn chaired like that. It was just incredible. So moving forward, I imagine that the only real play available for the UFC, if they're being real with themselves, is a rematch between Kamaru Usman and Leon Rocky, right? There have been champions who have had less impressive runs, and they got immediate rematches. And so, granted, he got knocked out, and people are going to be like, we got knocked out, but, come on. everybody saw what happened. Everybody knows that there's a very, very, very real opportunity for Kamaru Usman to come back and win the rematch. So I don't see anything happening other than a rematch at the very top of the division in the short term, and I'm going to be here for it. Like, y'all can take my money. I will watch those dudes fight anytime. Yeah, especially like the suspense that you can have in it now moving forward, knowing that Rocky Edwards can literally send you to space at the end of the 5th round. Another thing that I want to talk about is how tough is Nathan Diaz. Remember, he fought Rocky, and in the 5th round, he was rocking Leon Edwards and like picking on him and pointing at him and laughing and talking shit. And people don't take Nate serious, right? And in the 5th round, Rocky Edwards was knocking out Kamaru Usman, right? So you've got Kamaru Usman in the 5th round getting knocked out by Leon Edwards, who was getting rocked by Nate in the 5th round, right? Like, there's levels to like this dog mentality that exists, right? And like clearly that night, Leon was willing to push when the going got tough, harder than Kamaru, and clearly Nate was willing to push and work harder than Leon whenever the going got tough in their fight, right? So I'm just a bopper. I've been a Nate bopper for forever, and this is like an opportunity for me to like convey how tough that guy is, right? Like, think about it, man. Like, Rocky's knocking the champion out in the 5th round, and Nate was whooping his ass in the 5th round. So I know that like MMA math doesn't necessarily work like you might want it to, but I mean, if we're apples to apples comparing what's went down between these 3 fighters, man, Nate is like no one to fuck with at all. But that's enough about that fight, right? Congratulations to Leon Edwards. I'm certain that he's going to enjoy being the champion for as long as he can. I'm excited to see what a reinvigorated Kamaru Usman's going to look like, and I'm excited for the rematch that I know is coming. The co-main was Paulo Costa and Luke Rockhold, and this was a pretty good fight. I mean, Luke Rockhold, look, cashed out midway through the 2nd round. I mean, at the end of the 1st round, I believe his hands were on his knees, so he wasn't looking in the best shape the entire time in terms of how well he's performing in the octagon. I mean, he looked tired. He looked really tired. And even in his interview, he was like, I'm fucking old, man. But as old and as tired as he was dangerous, bro. Like, he was throwing them big straights and landing on Paulo Costa and, like, scaring everybody in the crowds pretty regularly. But Paulo Costa got the job done, right? I thought Paulo Costa was going to knock him out whenever I was picking the fights previous, but it looked like they both kind of cashed out in the 1st round. Maybe there was a little bit of an adrenaline dump between the two of them. But congratulations to Paulo Costa, man. He came in, got a quality win over a quality opponent. He's back in the win column. He's moving in the right direction. And I can't wait to see what's going to happen with him moving forward. I mean, what's he ranked right now? I believe he's number 6. Yeah, so I mean, there's a few fights he could have. I mean, there's like the Jared Cannonier fight. He's already lost to Marvin Vettori. Derek Brunson, I believe, is already booked. Alex Pereira is on the rocket ship to Israel Adesanya. Maybe him and Robbie Whitaker. I don't know who you give him to. I mean, there's Sean Strickland, Jack Hermanson, Darren Till, Andre Muniz, Kelvin Gastelum, all behind him. But coming off a win like that, I doubt that they're going to feed him any. Well, they might have to, with only really 1 or 2 guys ahead of him being guys that are potentially available and guys that haven't already beat him once. So we're going to see what winds up happening with Paulo Costa moving forward, but I know that it's going to be exciting fights, and we're going to win every time he goes in there, right? Like, I think of the fight between him and Yoel Romero, and like he's had several like really, really fun fights. So I imagine that trend's going to continue. I mean, hell, this one was a fun fight. I could not believe how fucking nasty Luke Rockhold is. That dude rubbed his fucking blood nose all over Paulo Costa. I mean, he like literally shoved his nose into Paulo Costa's eye while it was like just pouring blood. And Paulo Costa was like, I'm going to have to take like he said, I took a really long shower after that. And it's gross, man. It's really, really gross. And I know that like blood's a part of the sport and stuff, but to like intentionally smear it on somebody to be disgusting, it's disgusting. Like he he knew he was being gross. He was trying to violate Paulo Costa because he'd lost the fight, and he was trying to get him a win on the way out. And so, ended the fight on top, ended the fight smearing your blood all over Paulo Costa. I guess you got your win on the way out, and you get to feel good about it. But it was gross. I wasn't real for it. I know a lot of people liked it. I can see how you'd like it. No, it's not for me. It's not for me, bro. Like, man, if Rockhold did that to me, I'd have to hit that fool with, like, a lead pipe in the parking lot. Like, there would have to be some form of retribution. That's such bullshit. But then again, I'm also not a fighter, right? It's like, go grab a piece of pipe. Congratulations to Luke Rockhold on an awesome career. He wound up retiring after the fight. Said his heart ain't really been in it, and just, there were some things that he said that kind of makes sense. He hadn't won since 2017, and I love that he kind of went out on his shield for the rest of the fighters. Though he really stood up to the media and stood up to the executives and said the thing that said a bunch of the things that the people who are currently fighting won't say because they'll get blackballed and it'll negatively affect their ability to make their money moving forward. I believe guys even like Tyron Woodley mentioned how they wish that they hadn't been so vocal against the brass of the UFC because it negatively affected their careers and their trajectory. So, Luke has kind of a privileged position to say that type of shit whenever he goes into the fight. Is looking back on it, the way he was talking in those interviews and the way he went into the fight, I feel like he knew it was his last hurrah. He was going to say what he needed to say so that he could get it off his chest and move on down the road. Like I said, congratulations to him for a great career. I'm really, really proud of him. He's a great fighter. Was a champion in Strikeforce. Was a champion in the UFC. And has been a staple over there in his gym. He's really tight with DC, and I'm certain the future is going to be great for him. He'll get to keep training, and he'll get to go be a model, and he's going to keep getting his money. Like he said in the interviews, I don't need this business. He doesn't, and that's a fact. And so he's going to keep on doing just fine for himself outside of the octagon. I'm supremely confident of that. The next fight, the co-main, which is really where the fights of note end on this card. But we're going to go over the rest of the main card because these people came out and fought hard and they deserve to get their shine, even if they aren't necessarily big names. Me talking about them will help them get their big name, and so I hope they appreciate me taking the time to speak on them, even though I maybe don't necessarily believe that they're going to be the people who get the eyes to my podcast. At the end of the day, we're scratching each other's backs here. But this one was Merab Dvalishvili. That one fumbled me up, bro. I had to really, really try to practice that one before I started recording so I wouldn't get this winner's name wrong, because they deserve to have their name spoken appropriately, right? He knows what his name is, and I want to make sure that I represent it accurately. But Merab beat Jose Aldo. And I had picked Jose Aldo. Jose Aldo didn't look like the same Jose Aldo from the last couple fights. It's he just wouldn't pull the trigger, I guess. And maybe because Merab was wrestling so aggressively, which, shout out to Jose Aldo, I think that he said, I'm not going to get taken down. And he meant that shit. He did wind up getting taken down eventually, but his takedown defense is stellar. It's always been stellar. And so he had some really, really good takedown defense against a guy who was hell-bent on wrestling. But yeah, he just never pulled the trigger, man. It just seemed like Merab had Jose off his game, had his timing off. I don't think that Jose Aldo was necessarily expecting to get out leg kicked, and so getting out kicked at range, and then anytime that they did close the distance into boxing range where Jose Aldo could do where his best work, Merab closed the gap and wrestled. And so it was either Jose Aldo was getting leg kicked and kicked and picked and poked from out at range, or he was getting smothered and having someone actively try and take him down. And so just never really got an opportunity to get his offense going, and that's life, man. I mean, that's the nature of fighting those wrestler types where they smother you and they get you off your game and put you on your back foot and all of a sudden they're leading the dance, and they're getting to throw the shots that they want. And the moment that you start to find any success, they throw in a takedown attempt, bring it back into their world, get you to where you're wrestling and not thinking about your striking, and then all of a sudden they're back to striking, succeeding until you start to find your success again, and then the cycle gets rinsed and repeated. And so it's just like one of those tactical plays. That's why you gamble on the wrestlers in mixed martial arts, and that's why wrestling is the thing that's in the Olympics, right? They felt like it was the most civilized way of determining who was the best combatant, because at the end of the day, this mixed martial arts shit oftentimes just comes down to wrestling. And so shout out to Merab for having like the appropriate skill set for finding real success in the mixed martial arts, and for effectively mixing it up and finding a success at range and in close, and getting the win. I mean, like it went to the decision, and I knew it was Merab's fight. I think everybody in the house knew that it was Merab's win when they went to the decision. So, congratulations to him. Let's see where he's ranked right now. So they're bantamweight, and so Jose Aldo dropped down from number 3 to number 6. And Merab jumped up from number 6 to number 3. They literally just flip-flopped locations. And, I mean, who's ahead of him? TJ Dillashaw and Peter Yan? Who do you give him to? I think if I'm Merab, I'm probably sitting back and waiting for my title shot. Or, I mean, there's only 2 guys in front of him who can potentially, catapult him into the championship fight, unless they wind up having him fight someone beneath him who would be like the title eliminator, right? Like I could see like a Chito Vera, or a Corey Sandhagen, one of those guys maybe coming in and fighting him, and they'd be like, whoever wins this fight gets to go get the championship. But I'm not entirely certain what either of those guys' schedules look like offhand. I know that Chito Vera just fought here recently. We're actually going to talk about that briefly after we wrap up 278. He had a really great performance against Dominic Cruz. Shout out him. Another great head kick that left me speechless. But, so yeah, I mean, things that are next for Jose Aldo. I mean, he's, number 6. There are nothing but exciting fights with guys ranked above him, and nothing but exciting fights with guys ranked behind him. There's a lot of neato fights you could make. Him and Song Yadong, him and Ricky Simon, him and Pedro Munoz, those are all fun fights, right? Maybe Dominic Cruz, they both came off a loss. Whoever wins between Aldo and Dominic Cruz maybe gets to move forward in the ranks. I can't recall if these guys have fought offhand. I'm certain they've been around for forever. I'm certain, they've both been in title contention. I'm certain they've crossed paths in the past. I don't have the data in front of me offhand, so that's on me. But either way, it'd be nice to see either of those guys, shit or get off the pot, right? And that's one way to force it, is to make both those guys who are in the shit or get off the pot position shit or get off the pot. One guy's going to keep sliding and one guy's going to keep climbing. And that's life. So women's bantamweight had Wu Yanan versus Lucy Pudilova. And I picked this one right. Go me, right? Congrats, pat on the back. But Pudilova came in looking hungry. Her grappling was exceptional. Clearly, she got some really great work out in the Czech Republic between when she left the UFC and when she came back. I know that it shocked me and the broadcast booth how aggressive and effective her wrestling was. And she stuck with it and got the TKO in the second round. Was elbowing the shit out. Was elbowing her and got on top, and Wu gave Lucy her back, and instead of going for the choke or anything, she was just dropping elbows on the side of her head. I think I've ever seen anybody throw elbows from the top when they have the back like that. It was a pretty neato attack that she was doing, and it was clearly very effective and won the fight. And so congratulations to her. It's going to be really interesting to see what she does in women's bantamweight moving forward, because with the skill set that she's developed since she left the UFC, she's looking very, very good. And don't take anything away from Wu. This is her 4th loss in a row, but understand that her last 3 fights have been against or 4 fights now have all been against savages. Lucy is like the most suspect name on the resume at this point. And I think based on that performance, give it another year or two, Lucy isn't going to be any type of suspect on that roster or on that resume. And then Tyson Pedro. I'm a big Tyson Pedro fan. I've always been a big Tyson Pedro fan, and he needed to get back in the win column, right? He needed the win. And he got it against a guy who's dangerous, right? Like, granted, Tyson Pedro was the biggest betting favorite on the card, so he was expected to win. But let's be frank, he was fighting a gentleman in Harry Hunsucker who had just dropped down from heavyweight, meaning that he was packing like heavyweight power, and it was a really dangerous fight for him. And Tyson Pedro dispatched him in a minute. Just super nasty boxing. And, good for Tyson Pedro, man. I talked to my brother about it, and he was like, yeah, man, he had to recommit. He couldn't let Tai Tuivasa be the only one of the Island Boys getting the wins in. So it's nice to see those guys all getting it in together, man. I'm a big fan of that whole scene out there in New Zealand where they're Eugene Behrman and Israel Adesanya and all these guys. And I know that Volkanovski, although he's from Australia, does come over there and train a whole lot. And so, man, it's a fun scene they've got going, man. And greatness begets greatness. And Tyson Pedro isn't going to go quietly whenever he's around that level of winners, right? He's expected to win whenever you're coming from an environment full of winners. And so he lived up to that expectation. And congratulations to him. The prelims, I'm not going to go over them. There was a bunch. There was like a draw in three decisions. There was nothing too terribly exciting. Obviously, all the people on there, performed well, went out there and did what they do, and I'm proud of them. And I can give them a shout out. Marcin Tybura gave Alexander Romanov his first loss. Alexander Romanov looked great in the first round, picking Tybura up and slamming him, but I think he kind of cashed himself out, picking up that big O man, and Marcin Tybura clearly won the second and third round, although one judge did give Alexander Romanov a 10-8 in the first round, so it wasn't a unanimous decision. It was two judges had it for Tybura, and one judge had it as a draw, and so it was a not a split decision, but a majority decision. You don't see too many majority decisions, so that was cool. Congratulations to Marcin Tybura. I'm excited to see what he's going to do. He's going to keep doing what he's doing in the heavyweight division, being a force. Let's see if he's ranked in the heavyweight division right now. Yeah, so I mean, he's number 10, like top 10 heavyweight in the world, coming off a win off of a super talented up and coming challenger. So good for him. Jared Gordon beat the brakes off Leonardo Santos. Leonardo Santos looked old and tired and slow and being affected by the elevation pretty drastically. And so Jared Gordon got an overwhelming decision. Sean Woodson and Luis Saldana got a draw. Wasn't expecting that. I thought that Sean Woodson had done enough. But, hey, I'm not mad at the decision. And Ange Lusa won a decision over AJ Fletcher. This fight was crazy. Ange Lusa clearly won the first round. Then AJ Fletcher came back and fought like a madman during the second round and clearly won the second round. And then Ange Lusa just seemed to have more gas left in the third round and was able to get it done. So congratulations to everybody who won, and obviously the people who lost. You guys are great, man. You're professionals fighting in the UFC. You're at the tip of the spear, and sometimes things just don't go your way. Keep grinding hard and living a good life and doing what you love. And I'm happy for you at the end of the day, no matter what. So, looking back, the card that immediately followed UFC 277 was the Thiago Santos versus Jamal Hill card. Jamal Hill did amazing, right? Is the only person, I believe, in the UFC to have finished Thiago Santos with strikes. I mean, we're talking guys like John Jones, big names. I mean, you can't get any bigger than John Jones. John Jones couldn't finish Thiago Santos in 5 rounds, and yet Jamal Hill did it in 4. So congratulations to him, man. That man's hands are dangerous. You won't catch me betting against Jamal Hill unless they put him in there against like someone very, very serious. Jeff Neal, Hands of Steel Neal, shout out him. He actually liked the page and followed it. So he's like my first ranked UFC fighter to follow the podcast. So that's neat. Yeah, shout out Jeff Neal, bro. Let's like get in a podcast or something if you see this. I'm assuming you are because you gave it a follow. Then again, it's an hour. Your attention span might not be that long. That's life. That's okay. I'm not going to be mad at you. Can't be mad at you. Whoop my ass. It's like, fucking fuck it. Do what you're going to do, buddy. Let's just keep it copacetic. Muhammad Usman won the Ultimate Fighter in the heavyweight division against Zach Pauga. Got him a TKO in the second round. Looked fantastic. Him and Kamaru are the first siblings to win the Ultimate Fighter together. Like, Kamaru won the Ultimate Fighter, and now Muhammad's won the Ultimate Fighter, so that's, like, super dope. Go him. Juliana Miller got the win over Brogan Walker, which Juliana Miller is, I like her little attitude, man. Like, she's like she's mean, right? Like, and I think that that's something that's getting lost on a lot of these fighters, where they're just, like, going out and doing, like, this competitive sport thing, and like a lot of these guys are like really great athletes and really well trained, but they lack that like Nate Diaz nastiness. Like there's just like something about certain people that have that dog in them, bro, and like I see it in Juliana Miller. She's got that dog in her, and I don't know how far she's gonna go, but I know that her fights are gonna be fun, bro. So every time that Juliana Miller's walking in the octagon, I am going to be tuning in. And she got the TKO at like the 4-minute mark of the third round. Sergey Spivak looked amazing. I picked this one incorrectly. I thought Augusto Sakai was going to get him walking backwards and was going to overwhelm him with a volume of punches, but no. Sergey Spivak was the one who pushed forward and overwhelmed Augusto Sakai with an overwhelming number of takedown attempts and ground and pound and stuff, and got the TKO at the 3-minute and 42-second mark of the second round. Terrence T-Rex got him a submission in the second round. I love that nickname, bro. I cannot get enough of that nickname. And then the next fight night that happened following the Santos versus Hill card is the Vera versus Cruz card. And shout out Cheeto Vera, bro. Yeah, that guy is good. That guy is very good. And, man, he set Dominic Cruz up is the only way to put it, man. He feinted the punch and like knew where Dominic Cruz was going to go and put the head kick right where Dominic Cruz was going, and it put the lights out, swarmed him, threw a couple bombs on him when he was down. Ref stopped it. No one complained about the stoppage this time. And so Cheeto Vera, real deal, taking out guys like Dominic Cruz, that's like a big feather in the cap. Nate Landwehr won a 3-round decision over David Onama, and this made it to my like best fights list. This dude, Nate Landwehr, is a fucking maniac. Was really, really incredible to watch. I felt like David Onama won the first round pretty decisively, but then, like, dude, the moment the second round started, David never got another chance to breathe. Nate Landwehr was all over him. Like every second he had his hands on Onama. And if he didn't have his hands on him, he was throwing punches and kicks at him. And he like dragged on him and laid on him and like made him carry his weight and just taxed Onama's gas tank. And the third round was a little bit more competitive, but at the end of the day, Landwehr did enough to get it done. I thought it was a really good decision. Yasmin Uruguay had a really impressive win over Lucindo. Just better boxing, straighter punches, right down the middle. So throwing straight punches that are more technical is more energy efficient, so it seemed like she had more gas in the later rounds. And also her straight punches were just like finding their home at a greater percentage than Lucindo's. Lucindo's throwing these big looping hooks, and Uruguay is throwing these straights, and obviously like, if you're throwing a big looping hook, the straight's going to come underneath it and catch. And so she had a really, really great performance. She's undefeated. I'm excited to see what's going to happen with her at women's strawweight. Azamat Mirzakhanov remains undefeated, took out Devin Clark. Great fight. Devin Clark's dad was like so gassed up in the second round. It was at the end of the second round, it was very inspiring. Even had me like ready to go like conquer the world. But at the end of the day, Azamat's wrestling and top pressure and ground and pound was just too much. Got on top of him, beat up on him. Devin Clark couldn't get out of there. Ref made the appropriate decision to end the fight because Devin couldn't intelligently defend himself in the position that Azamat had him in. And so, congratulations to him. Bruno Silva got submitted by Gerald Meerschaert. That's what happens when you fight Gerald Meerschaert. Gerald hit him with a big shot, and I thought it was over then, and he tried to swarm him, and Bruno tucked his head into Gerald Meerschaert to try and avoid the bombs and put himself right into a guillotine, and that was that. So congrats to Gerald Meerschaert, and congrats to everybody who fought. No one performed in a manner that's dishonorable or anything like that. Everybody went out there and performed well. Everybody deserves to be able to hold their head up high. These are all professionals at the tip of the spear, and they're all great. Then we get back to 278, which again we just covered. Great card. So now we get to take a look forward. And so September 3rd, this I believe it's this next weekend, Cyril Gane versus Tai Tuivasa. Such a big Tai Tuivasa fan. This is not a good fight for Tai, right? Granted, Cyril isn't a good fight for anyone at heavyweight. The guy literally can stand in the octagon and jump rope for 25 minutes straight and be good to go, right? And so he's just an insanely explosive and well-conditioned athlete. Stand Tai Tuivasa and Cyril Gane next to one another and see who's going to pass the eyeball test, right? Let's just shoot straight. Cyril Gane is a fucking monster. Oh, hey, Robert Whittaker and Marvin Vettori are fighting. What? What a fight. I can't believe this flew under my radar. Okay, so this takes us back to the conversation about what's going to happen with Paulo Costa. Robert Whittaker wins. Maybe have them fight. They're fighting within 2 weeks of one another, so they should be ready to fight around about the same time. Okay, yeah, I think I like that. But I'm not Sean Shelby or them. They're going to do what they're going to do. I'm just here to talk about it. But at the end of the day, I think that Tai Tuivasa does have a very sincere puncher's chance. I think that he's got that that granite chin. I mean, he was Mark Hunt's sparring partner. So whenever your job is to be able to take punches from Mark Hunt, you have a fucking head like a cinder block. You just have to, or else you're not going to make it as Mark Hunt's sparring partner. So he has the jaw of a Mark Hunt sparring partner. And he's an aggressive guy. I do very sincerely believe that Tai Tuivasa is going to have the chin and the aggressiveness to walk through the shots that Cyril Gane is putting on him. And he's going to be able to get Cyril backed up against the cage, and Tai throws nasty elbows. And frankly, we haven't really seen Cyril's chin get tested because no one's had the grit or the skill set or the mentality so far that he's fought in the UFC to back him up against the cage and walk through that fire and actually get their hands on him and see what they can do. And I do believe that Tai Tuivasa is going to be that guy, and I do not believe it's going to be enough to win against Cyril Gane. I think that Cyril Gane is going to get caught a few times, and that's going to put him on his A game, right? I think that 3 times Tai Tuivasa gets Cyril Gane against the cage the entire fight. And those are going to be his opportunities, and I think that's when he can win. But I do believe that he's going to bink Cyril, and that's going to refocus him, and he's going to realize that he's in a real fight. I feel like Cyril looks like he's standing in line to buy a sandwich whenever he's fighting. He's so just whatever, I'm here to fight, whatever. And I just think that he's like that because he knows in his heart that he's athletic enough to get away from the damage, and he doesn't really feel threatened. That's the vibe that I get, is he doesn't feel threatened in there in the octagon. And I think that Tai Tuivasa is going to make him feel sincerely threatened with a couple of big shots, and that's going to put Cyril Gane in a zone where Tai is not going to be able to do that to him again. So, Tai, you're my man. I watched you knock out Derek Lewis live in Texas, and I want to pick you right now, buddy. I really do. But if I'm trying to be right, if it's my money, right? If I'm putting money on it, it's Cyril. But my heart tells me Tai Tuivasa. I'm a much bigger fan of Tai Tuivasa than I am of Cyril. No disrespect to Cyril. It's just his fights are a little boring. If I'm going to be oh, wow, which fight am I going to turn on tonight? Like if there was a Cyril Gahn fight on one channel and a Tai Tuivasa fight on the other channel, I'd be tuning into the Tai Tuivasa fight every time. And so I want Tai to win. I think he's a more exciting fighter and a funner fighter that I appreciate to watch more. But Cyril Gahn's going to get that job done is the bottom line. Robert Whittaker and Marvin Vettori. This is an interesting fight, y'all. This is a really, really interesting fight. Marvin Vettori is a grinder. And I think that he's going to give Robert Whittaker a lot. I think it's going to be a lot for Robert Whittaker to take on. But I do believe that Robert Whittaker can get it done. I think that Robert Whittaker has better kicks. I think Robert Whittaker has better boxing. And I know for a fact that Robert Whittaker has like an insane killer instinct in there. Like, he'll slow cook Marvin Vettori and finish him the way he wants to. That being said, I don't think that Marvin Vettori's one to get slow cooked. He made it all the way through the fight with Israel Adesanya whenever he was getting his ass beat. And so I don't think anyone's going to be knocking out Marvin Vettori anytime soon, but I do believe that Robert Whittaker is going to be able to outclass him on the feet. Olay Marvin Vettori around the octagon as Marvin Vettori comes marching forward, land the big counter shots, land the kicks out at distance, maybe get taken down once or twice, but have good enough anti-wrestling to keep it from being enough for Marvin Vettori to steal the rounds from him. And I believe that Robert Whittaker wins the decision fight. That's what I really do believe is going to happen. Then Alessio Di Chirico versus Roman Kopylov. I don't know who's going to win this fight. I don't know either of these guys well enough. I don't know how. Yeah, I don't know either of these guys well enough to really speak on it. And so I'm sorry, gentlemen. I did say your names out loud. Y'all did get a shout out on the podcast, and we will see how the fight goes. We have John Makdessi versus Nasrat Haqparast. How do you say that? Haqparast. Nasrat. We got John Makdessi versus our man Nasrat. I'm a big Nasrat fan. He's taken a couple L's that I didn't quite expect, but if I'm having to pick one, I'm gonna pick Nasrat. Primarily, I think that he's gonna have good enough anti-wrestling to keep John Makdessi off of him. John's like a real short guy with real short arms, and he's going to try and get in close and wrestle and do some dirty boxing, and I believe that Nasrat's footwork and boxing is crisp enough to keep John off of him, and he also punches hard, like he might knock him out. And so I'm gonna pick Nasrat just with the reach advantage and with the strength advantage. Yeah, I think that's Nasrat's fight. And then we've got Taylor Lapilus versus Khalid Taha. I don't know either of these guys really. Taylor's 18-3 and Khaled's 13-4 with a no contest. So 18-3 versus 13-4. I don't know. I really don't know. I don't want to speak on it because I don't know. But then we get to UFC 279, which is frankly a little bit underwhelming. Right? It's a little underwhelming. They've got a nice big fight for the headliner, but I mean it's not even a championship fight. Like this is a numbered UFC event, and they've got Khamzat Chimaev and Nate Diaz headlining it. And I think that this is something that they're doing intentionally to Nate Diaz to try and keep his numbers down. I believe that they want to negatively affect Nate Diaz's stock on the way out, because the bigger the star that they have walk away from the sport, the worse of a black eye it is. At just the most simple human, like guerrilla level, right? Like we had a strong one leave the tribe today, and I think that the UFC doesn't want to make it appear as though they're losing a strong one from the tribe. So they're feeding him to Khamzat. Minus 2,200 dog for Nate Diaz. It's bad. It's a bad matchup, man. It reminds me of like him and Rory McDonald back in the day. I love Nate Diaz, man. I know he's a dog. I know he's impossible to finish. I know that like he's that dude, and I think he might pull off something like he did against Rocky Edwards, where he looks real good towards the end of the fight, and he has like something to hold on to, and the fans have something to hold on to, but I gotta call it like I see it. This is a fucking assassination attempt. Like they're like, oh, you want to leave? Go through Khamzat, and yeah, it's like insane. It's a crazy fight, and I think that anybody who isn't necessarily having their hands in the pockets of the situation, like anybody who isn't in the situation for financial gain, is like mildly to severely worried for Nate Diaz's health. And like, I don't want to disrespect the guy. He's my dude. I've been a big fan since he was like in the Ultimate Fighter, on the Ultimate Fighter, and I've been a rider for forever, man. Like been a rider for forever for Nate, but I don't see him winning this one. I'm sorry, gotta pick Kamzat. I mean, you're a minus 2,200 dog, bro. Let's be real. I'll throw $100 on you. We going to Sizzler if you win. Nate Diaz, I'm going to Sizzler if you win. So there's that. But if I'm picking it right now, it's got to be for Kamzat. And if my money was like there for the safe bet, it's Kamzat, right? But I like to bet on dogs, especially when they're absorbently large like that. Like, bruh, plus 2,200, get the fuck out of here. I don't even know this guy. Dennis Tuilulin. I don't even know this guy. I see his face here. I don't even recognize this gentleman's face. He's a middleweight. Is he even in the top 15? No. And neither is Jamie Pickett. So, I mean, that's what they're doing. I mean, come on. You don't have a championship fight, and the co-main is between two middleweights who aren't even ranked. Frankly, I would have rather... the next fight is Johnny Walker versus Ion Cutelaba, and I would have, frankly, rather that been the co-main. I don't understand how Dennis Tuilulin and Jamie Pickett are the co-main. That being said, congratulations to them. You guys are the co-main event on a numbered UFC card. Like, y'all stock is going up. Go out there and perform well. I'm familiar with Jamie Pickett, right? So I want to pick him, but I don't know enough about Dennis to really make a call, so I'm not going to make a call on that one. The light heavyweight fight between Johnny Walker and Ion Cutelaba is very interesting. Ion Cutelaba hits like a truck. So does Johnny Walker. Johnny Walker's got a big, long reach. He's a heck of athletic guy. But he's proven to be chinny. Ion Cutelaba has also proven to be chinny. I'm gonna pick Johnny Walker. I feel like they both hit about the same in terms of strength, but Johnny Walker's a bigger guy with more physical tools available to him. And so yeah, that's gonna be the difference maker for me is the physical size difference and the difference in the effectiveness of the tools, right? Like big long legs can hit you with elbows from further out, just a bigger human being. So that's the difference for me. Jake Collier versus Chris Barnett. Barnett gang. No, I'm talking about, bro. I'm a Barnett too. And so I gotta pick Chris Barnett, right? I'm a tribalist. Call me what it is. Call it what it is. I can't bet against a Barnett. That's just bad for the brand, bro. Bad for brand. Bad for business. I'm gambling Chris Barnett. Jake Collier is good though. Don't take nothing away from Jake Collier. And if Jake Collier wins, I won't be shocked. But I do actually in my heart believe that Chris Barnett's going to win this fight. I believe he's like a more explosive athlete, and he's most certainly a funner fighter to watch. I'm not even gonna go off into this. I mean, these are Alatengale versus Chad Anheliger. I mean, we've got Shamil Abdurakhimov versus Jailton Almeida. I mean, bro, this is the card of people that I don't know. I mean, Irene Aldana versus Macy Kyason. I know them. Yeah, damn. I need to do some homework before I go out and speak on 279. But also, this isn't my review show for 279 or my preview show for 279. I'll have done more homework between then and there. But looking out that far in advance, I don't know enough about it. It's really this is clearly the Kamzat Chimaev versus Nate Diaz show, and it's gonna be like they're just gonna steal Nate Diaz's Brandon Thunder so that they can boost Kamzat up and diminish Nate Diaz's brand on the way out is the play here for the UFC. As much as I dislike it, that's what I see happening here. I hope Nate Diaz wins. I'm picking Kamzat. And so that concludes the like review and preview section of this. I've got some notes here about stuff that's happened kind of abroad in the mixed martial arts world that I want to go over. And so I watched my first full bare knuckle fighting championship card. I have to say, I was pleasantly surprised by how entertained I was. I've watched a few fights from BKFC, but I haven't ever sat and watched an entire card, and I did that because I had nothing else going on. It was Saturday. Let's watch fights. And I like it. I like it, man. It's a little too bloody for me. Like, you saw how much the Rockhold situation made me squirm. And so, yeah, it makes me squirm a little bit. But the thing that I like about it is that, like, now in bare knuckle boxing, jabs are a significant strike. You know, boxing with the pillows on is like, jabs are more or less for like finding range and controlling space and like measuring and stuff like that. You know, it isn't really like I'm gonna fuck you up with this jab. And in bare knuckle, they fuck you up with those jabs. And the main event was between Mike Perry and Michael Venom Page, MVP. I still to this day don't know how they managed to swing getting MVP in the bare knuckle ring. Like, it still just perplexes me why a guy with that big a brand would go and do something like this. I mean, I know in the interview he said that he wanted to go and give himself a unique challenge and this and that, like typical fighter shit, right? But good on Mike Perry, man. Mike Perry won the fight. It went to a decision. They went the whole way, and they actually wound up having a sixth round. They had a draw at the end of 5, and they had a sixth round, and it's the second time they've ever had to go to a sixth round for the bare knuckle fighting championship, and it was like one of their biggest fights they've ever had. And so it was a fun fight, man. It was a really fun fight. Perry dropped him in the first, and Mike Perry just made it a dogfight, man. You know, they're boxing, right? So MVP couldn't really work his kicks as much as he might have liked, and Mike Perry's got a blockhead, right? Like, he's used to having that like weird side stance and turning and getting a lot of torque into those straight right hands and knocking boys out. And Mike Perry wasn't going anywhere. He's tough, like one of the toughest dudes on the planet, and didn't go anywhere the whole time. Smothered him, hit him with a bunch of dirty boxing, took it to a sixth round, and won the sixth round. Like, whenever, at the end of the day, they don't consider the rest of the fight once it goes to the sixth round. They look at the sixth round and determine who wins right then and there. And I definitely felt like Mike Perry won that in the sixth round. So congratulations to him. Congratulations to the Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship for taking on a Bellator guy and sending him packing with your guy. That's great for the brand. That's great for Mike Perry, both the Bare Knuckle Fighting brand and Mike Perry's brand. And I love what Mike Perry did on the microphone afterwards. He called out Jake Paul and was like, "Bro, come fight me in bare knuckle, but if you won't do that, I guess I'll throw the pillows on just for you." And he was like, "I know you're having a tough time finding an opponent and this and that, and like, I'm there for it." And so, bro, I would love to see Jake Paul and Mike Perry fight, but I think that Jake Paul is hanging out waiting for that Nate Diaz money. Anthony Joshua took the L versus Alexander Usyk, which, again, second time he's lost to Usyk. Usyk's like, 220 pounds as a heavyweight in boxing, so he's like not the biggest heavyweight, right? Like Joshua's huge, and he looked huge compared to Usyk, and Usyk just outboxed him. Slicker, faster, able to outbox him, tough enough chin to like take the punches when he got hit, slippery enough to avoid most of them. And it probably should have been a unanimous decision, but it wound up being a split decision. But keep in mind, that's because the fight took place in the United Kingdom, and boxing's notorious for having hometown judges being super friendly to fighters. So I think that they just wanted a consolation prize and show that he had won one of the cards. But I'm not one of the judges. I wasn't there. Kayla Harrison ate Martina Jardova. Just ate her. Like, Kayla Harrison, as she proclaimed herself, she's the queen of women's mixed martial arts. And it's hard to deny her that title when she's the biggest, baddest girl out here dominating everybody. Like, she's bigger than Amanda Nunez, and you've never seen her do anything but dominate. So it's hard for me to say no whenever she makes that type of claim. I mean, she'd beat my ass. If I saw her in person and she was like, I'm the queen of women's mixed martial arts, I'd be like, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. For sure, for sure. So, go her. She's out here just raking in that PFL money, bro. Like, PFL pays pretty good. So yeah, go her, getting her money and developing her brand and continuing to win. And I don't see anybody beating Kayla Harris anytime soon. Anytime soon. Dana's saying that if Nate wins, he could get a title shot, but that's just damage control bullshit. Dana's just trying to build up Nate in interviews so that he can get away with this assassination attempt. Is all it really is. He's just paying lip service to the media to get away with the shitty thing that he's doing. In Josh's world, that's how Josh feels about it. Yeah, I mean, he's calling people absurd if you think that, if you think that it's like clearly in Chimaev's favor, but it is, man. I'm so hopeful for Nate. I fucking hope to God that Nate goes out there and just strangles Chimaev. That's what I want. I want to see Chimaev tap to Nate Diaz on the way out. Just to a big fucking middle finger to the UFC brass for trying to do Nate dirty on the way out. Luke Rockhold, like I mentioned earlier, how he was kind of being combative with the media and exposing the UFC brass for some of the potentially questionable business practices that they have. He said a bunch of neat stuff on the microphone. I don't have any problem with him calling out the media, right? Because I don't have any problem calling out fighters. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're going to go, the media can't call out fighters because they're not fighters, then I feel like you shouldn't be able to call out the media because you're not a journalist, right? Like, Luke Rockhold telling a journalist how to do their job is like a journalist telling Luke Rockhold how to do his job. And the sad truth is that journalists tell these guys how to do their jobs all the time. And so it's nice to see an MMA fighter getting to punch back at the media, right? Because oftentimes these fighters are, they like have to play ball and play nice with these media outlets because ultimately the shine that the media outlets provide the fighters is how the fighters bridge the gap between themselves and the fans and how they develop their brands. And so it's like in their best interest to maintain positive relations with the members of the media for the sake of developing their own brand and getting to their bag, right? And Luke Rockhold was clearly past that point in his career and was like calling his shots. I will say that I do like that he got on to the reporter. Evidently, Luke Rockhold and Chito Vera are like boys, and he called out one of the members of the media for, I guess he got like a luchador mask or some type of mask, and it was a Mexican mask, and gave it to Chito Vera and was like, "This is like representative of your culture. Here you go." And it's like, bro, not all brown people are Mexican. Like, let's get that straight. They like the overwhelming majority of them from South America. You're Hispanic, right? But Hispanic and Mexican is not the same. Like, Mexican is like a category that exists within the greater category of Hispanic, right? And you can't just go, well, you're Hispanic, and Mexicans are Hispanic, and so here's you a thing from Mexico because it's your Hispanic culture. Like, it's a little bit finer than that, bro. Like, he's from fucking Ecuador, and everyone knows he's from Ecuador. He walks out with the fucking flag. And how are these guys who are fumbling that type of shit this hard making it to, like, get press passes? I applied for a press pass. They told me motherfucking no. I'm gonna tell you right now, UFC, I ain't giving Chito Vera a luchador mask because he's Mexican when he's Ecuadorian. Motherfucker, let me in the door, Dana. Ain't nothing. It ain't but $75 for a round trip for me to get from Austin to Vegas on Frontier. I might have to do that sometime real soon and go knock some doors down, see if I can get them to like agree in person to let me get a media pass, because this is some old bullshit whenever these type of dorks are getting to get in the door, but I'm not. But either way, that's my fucking fit that I'm throwing. Whatever, fuck it. I'm going to keep grinding over here. I'm going to keep developing my following, and before long, they won't be able to deny me. Dana threw Luke Rockhold under the bus. Was basically like, because Luke Rockhold was talking about things like healthcare and stuff like that, and Dana was like, "Oh, we took such good care of Luke Rockhold and this and that," and it's like, bro, you can say you took good care of him, but that's a grown ass man getting on a microphone in front of 7 billion people connected through the internet, saying that they're dissatisfied with the caliber of treatment that they and the other fighters have received. And so if Dana's going to go on the record saying that Luke Rockhold got preferential treatment as compared to everybody else in the UFC in terms of how they were taking care of their medical stuff, then that's like a really big fucking problem, right? Like when the guys who, in Dana's mind, were taken care of are publicly complaining that they weren't taken care of, then how bad are the guys that aren't getting taken care of in Dana's mind getting treated? It's got to be pretty goddamn poorly. They're just keeping their mouth closed because you can't get into a fight with the UFC. They're just going to blackball you, give you shitty matchups, shitty names, never going to give you any shine, going to cut bad promos for you. Like, they're going to negatively affect your brand in an intentional way because you're negatively affecting their brand in an intentional way. And so you can see how, like, the goals of the UFC and the goals of the fighters don't necessarily perfectly align, and how whenever the fighters fight for the goals that they have that don't necessarily align with that of the UFC, it casts the UFC in a negative light, and the UFC exclusively retaliates for that. Like, you're never going to see Luke Rockhold on any major network. He's never going to be on ABC, ESPN, anywhere where like the billionaire boys are playing ball together. Like, Dana's going to have him blackballed. He's not going to. I mean, he might show up on Armchair Mixed Martial Arts so that we can talk about it, or he might show up on like Brendan Schaub's show or something like that. But he's definitely not going to be popping up on like any UFC officially branded UFC panels or anything like that. This is going to be the last that the overwhelming majority of fight fans wind up hearing about Luke Rockhold. I might hear about him. I might catch him on another weird podcast or on some weird platform that I keep up with that the average person isn't. But in terms of like the 3 or 4 or 5 major publications that ever discuss mixed martial arts, he won't be there. And this is the point, right? They want to provide a disincentive so that you don't go out and negatively affect their brand. That whole happening did manage to trigger Francis Ngannou, and Francis Ngannou took to Twitter and said that he literally lost a potential sponsorship last year that was worth $1 million because of the previously existing relationship that the UFC has with Crypto.com. And so that's a big issue, bro. I don't think that the UFC should be getting in the way of the bag for the UFC fighters. It's very frustrating. Like, I'm a business owner. I run nationwide companies. And the bottom line is your human resource, if they're not happy, then everything's going to crumble. And like right now, it's clear that the human resources that they're having to work with aren't happy with the arrangement, and they need to listen, or they're going to keep losing guys to PFL, and they're going to keep losing guys to One Championship, and they're going to keep losing guys to Bellator until they really can't continue to make the claim that they're where the best fighters live. And so I hope they get it figured out because I'm a big UFC fan, but I absolutely will cover One Championship if that's where my heart tells me that's where the best fighters on the planet are. And so heed the warning, UFC, heed the warning. I saw that USADA tested Paulo Costa at like 4 a.m. on the day of the fight or the day before the fight. How rude. That's so rude and inconsiderate. And like, you can tell by the virtue of that type of action that these people that are in charge of that aren't people who ever competed at any high caliber of anything athletic, right? Like, I'm gonna tell you right now, if you're a football player and you get woke up the day before your game and you get your rest fucked up, like that's bad. You need your rest. Like, I think a lot of people really don't realize just how important rest is. And it's very, very important. And they negatively affected that for a guy who was like fighting on the co-main event of a numbered UFC card. And Dana came out and said, that's not going to happen anymore. And I believe him, right? Because at the end of the day, USADA is an employee or a contractor for the UFC. And so whenever Dana says jump, USADA says, how high daddy, Dana. And so I'm certain that we'll wind up, that won't continue to happen. On the subject of them losing fighters and fighters not being happy, bro, Shane Burgos left PFL. What a crazy deal, bro. Shane Burgos is like a serious fighter. Like, I was not someone that I would expect to leave the UFC for another fight organization, and yet he did it. And I don't know if there was just like an overlap between when the UFC was getting around to signing him and when he felt like he needed to fight, or what went on, but I know that he's in PFL right now, and Dana White has come out on the record saying that he regrets losing Shane Burgos off of the roster. And, you know, that's what happens, Dana. Whenever Shane Burgos can literally go to the PFL and make more money and get treated like a rock star, it's going to happen, bro. It's going to happen. You're going to have to start taking care of your human resources. You're going to keep losing them. It's only going to accelerate. Bo Nickel is fighting again on the Contender Series on September 27th versus Donovan Beard. I don't know why they haven't moved Bo Nickel up to the UFC yet. Like, he's just going to keep mauling people in the Contender Series. Like, I don't understand it. Like, clearly good enough in my world. So, I don't know. I don't know what's going on with that. I feel like Bo Nickel needs to be in the UFC. We've got Tony Ferguson versus Li Jing Lang at welterweight at UFC 279. That's dope. Oh, check it out. It's 279. Okay, so, well, Tony Ferguson and Li Jing Lang will probably wind up being the co-main of UFC 279. They just haven't updated it on the Google side of things. So that's cool. That's a really fun fight, right? Li Jing Lang is like a blockhead who's going to go out there and fight a very straightforward forward pressure fight, and Tony Ferguson is a maniac who's going to just feed right into that. So that's going to be a violent affair, and I'm excited for it. Like, it's the only way you can say. I hope that Tony Ferguson looks good at welterweight, right? He was always kind of tall and lanky for 55, and so hopefully, like, him packing some extra weight around and not having to cut all that weight as an old man will be a little better for him. I'm going to pick Tony Ferguson, right? I mean, I'm a big Tony Ferguson fan. I don't think that Li Jing Lang is going to be able to finish Tony Ferguson. And, yeah, so, I mean, that's the only time that Tony really gets beat is whenever he's fighting guys that are, like, too good, and they manage to, like, put him away via TKOs. They never knock him out, but, like, sometimes the ref steps in and has to stop it. So, I don't see that happening, so I got to pick Tony Ferguson on that. I saw that they have Dominic Reyes versus Ryan Superman Spann booked for 281. That's two very big, very athletic men. I'd like to pick Dominic Reyes, but Superman Spann's a heck of an athlete, man. It could go either way. If it's my money on the line, I'm picking Reyes, but it's a dangerous fight for Dominic Reyes. Also on 281, they've confirmed Carla Esparza versus Zhang Wei Li. Hopefully that's a better fight than Carla Esparza's last affair versus Rose Namajunas. My God, that was one of the worst fights I've ever seen in my life, and it's still a bad taste on my mouth, and I'm not going to talk about Carla Esparza anymore this podcast because that's her punishment for the way she fought last time. Shitty of me, but that's life, bro. Robbie Lawler is going to be fighting Santiago Ponzinibbio at 282, which is fun. I'm a fan of both these guys. I don't know who's going to win. They're both kind of looking a little over the hill. Both been kind of having skids recently. I know who is going to win. It's going to be us, right? Robbie Lawler's an absolute savage. Ponzinibbio is a super smart guy. I believe he still works in the booth for the Spanish broadcast for the UFC. And John Jones had a cryptic tweet with UFC 282 and some prayers. And if you look on the UFC's website, they have UFC 281, and then 282 is left blank, and then 283. And so I believe what's going on is they're leaving UFC 282 blank because they're trying to get John Jones versus Stipe Miocic worked out. And I'm going to tell you right now, if they do that, your boy is going to be a very, very, very happy camper. But that's the last thing on the agenda. I really appreciate everybody tuning in. This one ran a little long. It was a little over an hour, so hopefully you guys stuck with me for the entire time. It's been a great time. Again, it's Joshua, Armchair Army. Thank you guys all so much. Cheers.
Monkey mouth. Monkey mouth. Monkey mouth. Monkey mouth.